Hi everyone, Callum here from FSElite, and I am here today doing an interview with the minds behind FSExpo. So I'm joined today by Evan and Phil, who are going to discuss plenty of different things with me, such as what we can expect at the event, who's going to be attending, and also what things there are to do in Vegas. Also, we'll be giving you the opportunity to win 2 free tickets to the event, so make sure you watch and tune in to find out more. So welcome Evan and Phil.
Hey Callum, thanks for having us today.
Not a problem. Yeah, it's so it's been a little while since we kind of last spoke and last talked. So I figured it was a really good time to kind of do a voice interview with you guys, just so we can kind of really expose the event as much as possible and hopefully engage with a wider audience as well, and hopefully give some new information to people who might be interested in coming to the event as well. So I thought we could first kind of start with just maybe a quick introduction of yourselves. Evan, we'll start with yourself and just maybe kind of give us a bit of oversight into what you do for the conference itself.
Yeah, thanks, Callum, and again, thanks for having us. I'm one of the co-founders of FlightSimExpo along with Phil, so the two of us pretty much end up doing most of what there is to do with respect to the conference. These days, I've mostly been working with the developers, potential exhibitors, potential sponsors, and trying to get as many big flight simulation names to the conference as possible. And we're just kind of getting to that time now where we start to transition from really working with the developers and the sponsors to now starting to attract the attendees and work with really marketing to that specific group. So this interview is very well timed. Of course, outside of the conference, those of you who may fly VATSIM will probably recognize my name. I'm a controller with Boston Virtual Air TCC on the VATSIM network and the training administrator for that organization as well.
Hey everybody, my name is Phil. As Evan mentioned, I'm the other co-founder of FlightSimExpo. So while Evan does a lot of the exhibitor outreach and sort of the front-end marketing, I'm generally on the back side of things. So I'm processing forms, looking at finances, and doing the website updates and those back-end type tasks that are still needed to run the conference. And of course, it's not just Evan and I doing everything. We have a team of 3 or 4 other guys who support us day to day as well with some of the outreach. And of course, we're excited to have them on board as well. Outside of the conference, I'm also a member of Boston Virtual Air TCC, as is Evan. So I'm the community manager for that group of people. Don't fly on VATSIM as much as Evan does, but I still kind of hang around in the wider online aviation community and sort of keep in touch with that audience as well.
Awesome. So thank you very much for joining me. And I think it's really, really wonderful that we've got 2 really, so firstly, experienced people who are going to be putting together what is hopefully going to be a fantastic event, but also 2 people that are very much engaged with the community as well, because I definitely feel that FSExpo is very much geared towards kind of community content and getting as many people from the flight sim community involved as well. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this event is entirely about trying to bring the entire community together, bringing all the exhibitors, the big names in the industry that everybody knows, together in one room, together with all of the attendees as well, so people can really meet each other in person and sort of bring a hobby that, for the most part, is online, where you don't see a lot of names and faces, really into the same room, so people can meet and greet each other for the first time.
Or in other words, we're not maybe the most social group all the time. I find flight sim people sometimes are, especially in North America. I think there's a bit of a different culture towards simulation, and sometimes we might not be the most social people. I sit here in a basement basically sitting alone. So, the idea of being able to go to a conference like this, being able to connect with people is really unique. And I was mentioning to a number of people that I find at events like this, because we're all passionate about simulation and we're all wanting to be in the same place, it's so easy to find friends. It's an event that you can very easily go to on your own, and you might find that you're going out to dinner with 20 or 30 people the next night because everyone's there. We all love simulation. It's very easy to find a group of like-minded people, and all of a sudden you've got people that you feel like you've known for a lifetime, even though it's just been the weekends. It's a really unique experience, and for people who haven't been to an event like this out in Europe or around the world, it's definitely something that I would strongly recommend, particularly if you happen to be in North America, where it's very easy to access, being in Vegas with cheap flights and cheap hotels and that kind of thing.
I think for me, this is one of the more exciting elements of kind of coming to these events, is to really we spend a lot of time behind a keyboard and talking to people online, but to actually interact and engage with actual people, I think is always going to be a lot more fun to do that as well. So you guys are both obviously the co-founders of FlightSimExpo, and this is the first time you guys have put on this big event, the two of you, along with obviously your other team members as well. So I don't know if you could just tell us maybe kind of what have maybe been your biggest challenges so far in kind of the build up to the big event in June.
Sure. I'd say that one of the biggest challenges we had in creating this event really is just the general uncertainty associated with starting a business. I mean, at the beginning of the planning effort, Evan and I were trying to sit down and run through some numbers and see, okay, how many exhibitors and sponsors do we need to attend, and sort of at what level do they need to come in at in order to support the event, and how many attendees do you think are going to show up? And there's a lot of uncertainty around all those numbers. It's really just guesswork, right? And so the biggest challenge was essentially, given that uncertainty, pressing the go button and committing to the event and signing on with Flamingo Las Vegas Resort, which is where the conference is going to be held this year. That was a big commitment on our part and a pretty big risk. And so taking all that on was both exciting and challenging at the same time. And it's been really rewarding to see over the past 6 or so months, as we started to get the attendees on board and as we started to sign on exhibitors and sponsors, to see all that hard work pay off. And the exhibitors and everyone has really come through in a big way. If you visit our website, www.FlightSimExpo.com, you can see that we have some of the biggest names in the industry attending the conference this year. And it's just been really great to see the effort and the support that everybody's been willing to show us to try and make this event be, what we would like it to be. As Evan said initially, there's sort of a magic about the flight simulation industry in that because it's primarily an online effort, when you get people together in the same room, there's sort of this aha moment that happens where people who might have interacted with each other in the past on a forum or just online, they're actually seeing each other face to face. And for me, that's sort of what this event is all about. It's about bringing everybody together in the same room and having them interact in a way that they might not have before face to face. It's just so much easier and so much different than it is when you're just listening to somebody online as a controller or as a pilot.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's been challenging for both of us in the same theme actually is just how much interest and how much early support we've had from people, and it's been wonderful to see. But at the same time, sometimes it's difficult even just to keep up with. We thought, okay, we were going to have a really tough time trying to reach out to developers and trying to get feedback from people, and it was quite the opposite. We got so much support and so many ideas and so many people saying, these are the dates you should hold it, this is where you should hold it, here's some ideas. We had, as you may have just seen recently on Facebook, Drew Bolton, Bell Geode, coming out and saying you need to go find some helicopter tours. Okay, well, we did that, and now you've got $50 or $100 off a helicopter tour if you want it down by the Grand Canyon area. So it's really interesting to see just how much support there's been for this idea, and trying to be able to capture as many ideas as possible and trying to really work with the community to build a conference that's what people want. I think it's been a lot of fun for us. And now, as Phil just said, seeing it all together and seeing that early interest in those suggestions translate into, sponsor logos on a website is really rewarding.
And I just want to touch on as well, because you've mentioned about the amount of support you've had. And just for those who may not be aware or who haven't seen the website yet, but just looking at it now, I mean, you've got some incredible names on here. I mean, you've got the likes of Orbex, you've got Laminar Research coming along with X-Plane, you've got Aerosoft, and then you've even got, smaller developers such as like Flightbeam. You've also got Navigraph on there. You've also got the hardware guys from Jetline Systems. I mean, there's a real range of different names that have just appeared onto FSExpo and have obviously committed. So it's going to be an incredible event, and it's going to be very diverse as well, I think, in terms of the content the attendees can expect as well.
Yeah, that was really one of our focuses with the conference, is trying to make it accessible for everyone. We worked with a hotel in Las Vegas, and they're telling us things like, oh, your booth should be probably $5,000 to $7,000 is a pretty standard price. And here we are selling them for $400. The reality is we're just trying to make a conference that works for everybody, and we need to ensure that someone like a smaller developer that you just mentioned they can make it to the conference the same as one of those bigger names that you're mentioning as well. And the same thing applies to attendees, which is why we're working so hard to get great hotel rates. We have a 10% discount for folks traveling on WestJet. So if you're coming from Canada or even connecting through Canada, there's an option for people there. I already mentioned the discounts that are available to someone who wants to do a helicopter tour, and there's discounts of over $100. So the registration basically pays for itself if you're planning to do a helicopter tour somewhere. We're really making a point of trying to make this event accessible so that anyone in the simulation community with a passion for it can make it work. Of course, we realize that it's still a tremendous expense and that people have to fly out and people have to stay at the hotel. So we appreciate the fact that so many people are so interested in doing that for this hobby. It's great to see how much support there is for simulation in North America.
And I think that's going to be the difference, and I think people will feel that when they attend FlightSimExpo in June. And when you guys announced it was going to be Vegas, it really held my attention, because Vegas was never the sort of city I would probably associate with going to for a flight sim event. So what was why did you choose Vegas to be the city to host FS Expo?
Yeah, so I think we haven't actually mentioned the dates of it yet, so we'll bring that up now. It's, as you mentioned, Las Vegas is at the Flamingo Las Vegas Resort and Hotel, and the dates are June 9th and 10th, 2018, of course. And to answer your question more directly, I would argue that really it wasn't necessarily us who chose Las Vegas, but rather it was the community that did so. And that's because, as Evan was mentioning, he and I are designing this conference really in the collaboration with the community. When we first received the idea of trying to run a conference in North America, we ended up reaching out to a lot of the big industry partners that we've mentioned previously, sort of the Orbixes and the Aerosofts, as well as a lot of the smaller industry partners as well, and sort of said, okay, guys, we're thinking about trying to run this event. What dates work for you? Where would you like to see this physically held? And what sort of things would you like to see there? And, we got a lot of suggestions back, and, Evan and I have been working on trying to whittle that down to things that we can actually implement. And so one of those suggestions that came back was, of course, a number of cities, and we took all those suggestions, worked with our event planning company, try and see which was actually realistic in terms of location, what worked best, and hotel pricing, and so on and so forth. And we ended up settling on Las Vegas, and so that's kind of how that decision came about. And we're really happy that we are there this year. As Evan was mentioning, Las Vegas is known for having great nightlife, so there's plenty of things to do before and after the conference. We have a great hotel rate as well that extends for 3 days before and after the actual conference. So if you wanted to try and make an actual mini vacation out of it and either spend a couple days before or after the conference, checking out the local area, you can do that as well. And of course, Las Vegas is known for having really great and cheap flights into and out of the city. So we're trying to really make it affordable for everybody so that if you do want to attend, you actually have the means to do so.
Yeah, I think also what's interesting to me about Vegas, I had never been there before I went down to take a look at the hotel and the venue. And, of course, I was thinking, okay, well, there's just gambling and free buffets and stuff like that. And of course, there are those things. But there's actually so much more to do in and around the area. And a lot of it is really aviation themed. So it's turned into being a venue that's way more than just a conference. Starting with the hotel, it's got one of the best pools pretty much on the entire strip. Huge pool, a big wildlife habitat just beside it, sort of Caribbean style almost resort atmosphere that you can get basically just outside of the casino, which is really neat. And then when you go a little bit further afield, right at the airport in Vegas, there's a great area where you can actually sit in plane spot. And if you're in a car, you tune your FM radio and it's actually just live ATC. So you can listen to the tower, give the clearances as the aircraft are taking off and landing. And of course, we've lined up a number of tours. We've got the Nellis Air Force Base tour that'll happen on Friday and hasn't been announced yet, but we've just confirmed a tour of the Vegas Tower and approach as well. That'll be happening in and around the conference. So there's just a ton of things to do in the area. And when you go a little bit further afield, again, you've got zip lining, you've got hiking, fantastic nature preserves. Grand Canyon is right there. It's just amazing how much you can do in and around that area.
I think what really makes this a really good location as well to host this event is because, like you said, it is an expensive trip. I mean, especially for the likes of myself, I'm coming all the way from the UK. So it's a really good opportunity for me to come out for the week. And because there is just so much to do and see kind of in and around the area, it kind of makes the whole it's not a journey just for FlightSimExpo, it's a journey for kind of lots of other things and stuff as well. And I think a lot of people will be very appreciative of the fact that you guys have really worked to kind of get some really cool deals and discounts for some of the stuff in the area as well. And I think the added advantage as well, and you guys can talk a little bit more about some of the speakers, but this is obviously an event geared towards around flight simulation, but I definitely feel there will be a lot of reason for people who may not necessarily be as into flight simulation as the likes of us or even the listeners as well. And I think that really comes down to not just the location, but actually some of the speakers and stuff you have, especially on the Sunday as well, when it's not just about flight simulation. Did you want to talk a little bit more about who's going to be turning up and what they're going to be talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, really bringing together the flight simulation developers and the attendees and the people who are very into the hobby. It's only really about, I would say, half of the conference. The other half is really about trying to bridge the gap between real world aviation and flight simulation, and showing people who might not necessarily have a desktop simulator at home, what that sort of hobby can do for them. So, for example, some of the speakers that we have lined up on Sunday morning, we're going to have Matthew Cannon, who's a real world first officer for Alaska Airlines. He's going to be doing a demonstration using Flight Simulator, basically trying to show the audience how he, as an airline captain, flies the airplane in the real world. So you can kind of get a sense for if you're into somebody, or if you're into trying to actually, fly your PMDG NGX just like they do in the real world, how that would work. We also got Jason Miller, who's a well-known CFI in the San Francisco Bay Area. He's going to be giving a talk about sort of, again, bridging this gap between simulation and aviation in the real world. So how, if you're going through real-world pilot training, you can actually try and use a flight simulator to shave some time or some hours and, of course, cost off of your training. So it's things like that that we're also trying to work on with the conference, and really trying to show people who aren't necessarily into the flight simulation industry, what a simulator can do for them and how it can benefit them.
And I think there's a lot of stuff there as well. I think I'm going to be really excited to try. And like you said, this is really about bridging the gap between real world and flight simulation. And I think something that we've seen more and more in recent times is the use of virtual reality. And I was saying this to my friends the other day, but I don't own VR headsets. I don't own kind of all this massive, expensive hardware. So this is a really good opportunity to try some of this new technology out that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to beforehand. So it's kind of really given people an opportunity to try out things that they probably may not be able to afford yet, and have a first-hand experience and kind of engage with developers and publishers as well. So if you've got kind of, what's it like for an attendee when they turn up? How can they interact with their favorite developers or find out who's going and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the big things that you mentioned is one of the benefits of coming to FlightSimExpo is that if you're thinking about trying to buy some new hardware, and the particular developer of that hardware is going to be at the show, really good chance that you're going to be able to actually show up in person and try this out. So you can do a try before you buy experience. So, for example, one of our developers, Once Game Studios, is going to be showing up, and they're going to be bringing a sort of fighter jet cockpit that you can sit in, and they're going to be doing a contest, I understand, to try and sort of have people sit in, try the hardware, and not quite sure what the details of the contest are, but it's going to be something around like a dogfight, and whoever can get the most kills or something like that will walk home with some hardware, I believe. So it's things like that we're trying out, and you'll be able to, of course, as an attendee, see that kind of stuff on the exhibit floor. All the developers are there trying to show off their hardware and get you to check it out and go and eventually make a purchase.
And what about more than just developers and publishers? Do you have any other kind of people attending, maybe like YouTubers or streamers that maybe other people have an interest in?
I think this conference will end up being pretty much something for everyone, and maybe in a lot of cases too much for each person. And that's certainly what I would expect it'll be for me. We've got a number of sort of, you might call them celebrities, at least as far as the flight simulation world goes, that are planning to participate in a panel that's specific to Twitch streaming in flight simulation. So those people are Ty Chef, you may know as his name, Cat Strader. We've got Chewy94, Squirrel, Jeff Avignano, Aerosim Gaming, and Durka Durka that'll all be involved in that panel, talking a little bit about streaming and flight simulation. You'll also be able to meet a number of these people in a booth that we're calling the Squawk Box that's going to be right on the main exhibitor floor. People will be taking roughly an hour or two turns in that area, and they'll be able to interact with you in a little bit more of an informal way than your typical stand up at the front of the room and do a seminar type thing. So if you have questions or you wanted to learn a little bit more about things like freeware or avionics and real world aircraft, we'll have Matthew Cannon, who Phil already talked about, there for a couple of hours, Tom Gauvin, who's an expert at SimPit building. So you'll be able to actually sit down and talk to some of these guys, learn a little bit more about some of these techniques. Another one that I should mention as well is Orbix is sending, I think, 2 or 3 of its top scenery developers to participate in this little sort of informal Q&A area. So people who might be interested in scenery design, have a couple of questions about techniques, will be able to actually explore those ideas right on the show floor.
And I just want to add kind of a little plug-in for FSElite as well. So as some of you may already know, we're going to be there. We're going to be on the exhibit floor. We've got an amazing stand kind of next to some really top-tier developers. So we're not just there to kind of be a presence at the event as a media partner, but we're hopefully also going to be showing off some really cool new products which haven't yet been announced from kind of more independent devs who would absolutely love to attend FlightSimExpo, but because of time and expense and stuff, it's just not possible. So hopefully, you're not just going to see some of the developers that are already listed, but hopefully we're going to be able to preview some brand new product and content as well. So if you're definitely come to the show, then 100% come and see us as well, because hopefully we'll be able to give you some insight into kind of what's going on as well. And just whilst we're on the subject of attending, it's dawned on me we haven't even mentioned the dates of when the event is going to take place. So the event is going to take place on June 9th and also on Sunday, June 10th as well. So what would be the process for people turning up to the event? Is there an early check-in for people? What kind of logistics could people expect when they arrive?
Of course, we would encourage everyone to register online and make sure that they've done that, as well as booking their hotel room. Registration, of course, the earlier people register and the more people register, the easier it is for us to go to companies in the nearby area and say, hey, look, we've got X number of people that are going to be there. What would you like to offer them as an opportunity to take part in your company or services? So encourage people to register. It's $70 for the weekend, and there's, of course, discounts available for if you were only going to go on Saturday or Sunday. That registration rate is only available, though, until May 15th. So, of course, we're encouraging people to register online, register early. And the same thing applies to the hotel rooms. There's a link to book hotel rooms on our website. The rates are posted right on there, but we're very happy to have an excellent hotel rate available for people staying on the strip. It's $119 a night on Friday and Saturday. And if you did want to spend a couple of extra days before or after the conference, you're looking at just $59 a night for the standard room. So again, fantastic rates available to people, but they will not be available for much longer. So strongly encourage people to do that registration and get their hotels booked as soon as possible with all the detail there on our website. Now, when people do arrive at the conference, we'll have a check-in available for them on Friday evening. So people who want to skip some of those big lines on Saturday from 3 to 5 o'clock on Friday, June the 8th, we'll have an advanced check-in available for folks to grab their bag with all the goodies donated by the various developers and, of course, get their badge and a t-shirt if they've bought one. And then things will actually kick off officially on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock with a welcome session followed by the new release announcement seminar, which will be a very quick hit, 5 minutes apiece, talk about what's new in flight simulation and the latest developments. Now, Callum, you guys at FSElite are actually doing something to help some people who maybe otherwise would be looking at some difficulty expense-wise attending the conference and actually offer to pay for a couple registrations. Is that right?
Yeah. So, like you said, Evan, we're really pleased to be able to help out the community just a little bit and offer 2 passes to FlightSimExpo this year. So you'll find a link down the bottom of this YouTube video linking you to the site, and all it is a raffle. Just need your name and your email address, and you'll be put into a raffle to win 2 passes. So if you want to bring a friend, then you can, but if you want to just come on your own, then just let us know. But either way, we can work out some logistics and stuff. So we're going to start the raffle as soon as this video is out, and it will be done by the end of the month. Then we'll announce the winner on April 1st. Obviously, if you do win, then you'll need to be fully committed, because we can't have someone then turning around and saying we can't come a couple of days before the event, because it just means the tickets go to waste. And you'll have to just make sure you get yourself out there, and hotel and stuff. But like Evan said, there's some fantastic rates, and there's a whole range of discounts and stuff available as well. So yeah, absolutely, sign up, and hopefully you will be a lucky winner as well. So I know we haven't even got to June yet. I imagine you guys are still really, really busy planning for obviously the event happening, but it's going to come up really fast. It's literally only a couple of weeks away, and it's just, I'm curious. Have you guys even started to consider what the future holds for yourselves and for the future of FS Expo?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with an event of this magnitude, the planning effort oftentimes extends, more than a year in advance. Such this year, we're working on this year's event, but we're also starting to think about, the year and the year after that. So we don't necessarily have any of the details locked down yet. As soon as we know them, you'll know them. But obviously, the idea is that we would want to turn this event into a recurring annual event, possibly taking places in different cities around the country. And again, Evan and I will be looking to the community and to the developers for a lot of input in terms of where they want to go, when they would like the event to be held, and what they do and don't want to see. So I encourage everybody, if you're going to this year's event, please feel free to submit feedback. Evan and I will, of course, be soliciting feedback from everybody. But really, this is, again, about a community and a collaborative effort, trying to make sure that we all build a conference that we're very proud of and that we want to attend. And so it's going to be whatever feedback we get that really drives how we're going to do this again next year. And of course, we're looking forward to that effort. We're sure it's going to be bigger and better than ever. And so far, things are looking very good for this year. As we mentioned, I think the website shows that we've had tremendous support from the developers, the community, and the attendees. And we're looking forward to driving that forward into the future.
Excellent. And I think, we haven't even had this event yet, but I'm already super excited to see what the future holds, because I think, like you said at the very beginning of this year was very much a massive gamble, a massive risk for you both. And hopefully what you will see at the end of June is kind of a real payout for, just how much support you've had from the development side of the community, the media partners, and obviously the attendee community as well. And hopefully FlightSimExpo turns out to be a massive success for you. So from everyone at FSElite, we absolutely wish you the best of luck. I'm sure you guys are going to do a fantastic job, and we are super excited to be coming out to Vegas to celebrate with you all. So just to kind of begin to wrap up, just a recap of all the important information for you guys. So the event will be happening on June 9th and 10th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday in Las Vegas in the Flamingo Hotel. Make sure you visit www.FlightSimExpo.com, where you can obviously register. And like Evan said, the more people that register early, the more advantages there will be for the guys to be able to plan better, to be able to get more discounts and more partners on board. So registration is open now. Can you just remind me how much it was again, Evan?
Yeah, so it's $70, 70. It's of course US dollars for the entire weekend. And then if people were looking to attend just for one of the days, Saturday or Sunday, each individual day is available at $40. That being said, of course, I always recommend people do the entire weekend. The reality is it's going to be such a big show floor with so many different developers there, not to mention the speaking room basically being booked back to back. It is very difficult to do this event in one day. And of course, we've got the social happening on Saturday night, followed by the opportunity to hang out in Vegas on a Saturday. So definitely encourage people, if they're thinking about attending, to try to make the 2-day trip. People will definitely miss out if they decide on one day or the other.
Fantastic. And again, just to remind you, we are giving away 2 free tickets to FlightSimExpo this year. All the details you can find down in the link below. That's it from me. Evan, Phil, was there anything you'd like to add just before we finish up?
Good for me. Thanks so much for having us here today, Callum, and letting us talk a little bit about the expo, and we're looking forward to meeting you in June.
And from my side, just two small comments. First one is make sure that you follow us on social media, especially Facebook. We have a contest coming up at the beginning of April where people will have a chance to win some great prizes, including some items from the folks you see on our website, but also you'll be able to win our grand prize, which will be a free upgrade to a suite on the Friday and Saturday nights of the conference. And that's apparently valued at over $1,000 according to the hotel. So definitely encourage people, if they haven't already, to make sure that they're following us on Facebook for sure. That second week of April will be a week of prizes in conjunction with our media partners, and we're looking forward to FSElite's continued support in helping to spread the word. And then my only other comment for people who may be still on the fence about going out to an event like this, every year, Boston Virtual ARTCC, we do a live event that happens in the Nashua area where we actually get together and we control a couple of hours live in person from a simulated air traffic control center that we create for ourselves in a university. And one year I had a friend that was debating whether or not he should go, and he's kind of saying, well, it's just going to be the same thing we do at home. Like, what really is the point? And I was finding it difficult to explain it, and I basically just ended up saying, you really have to be there to get it. And he eventually decided to go, and of course, afterwards, he's like, I get it now. And it is a different experience. And the same thing really applies to a conference like this. For you to really understand what it's like to be on the show floor, trying out virtual reality, walking down the line to talk to Jetline Systems and looking at a 4K display of prepared version 4, and then going over to X-Plane and trying out their simulator and sitting down at the 1C Game Studio booth, it really is a unique experience. And so I would really encourage people, if they're on the fence, the answer is you have to be there to really experience what this event is like. And we think it's going to be unique. We think it's going to be special, and we really hope that you'll join us come June. And of course, look forward to seeing everyone like you, Callum, and the others who have already made the commitment to attend.
Truer words have never been spoken. I attended my first flight sim event last year, and it was just so humbling to be surrounded by like-minded people, and it does feel quite daunting at first, but it did for me anyway, to be surrounded by so many people that I've kind of been following on Facebook or Twitter or kind of interacting on forums and stuff. But to kind of just sit down and just talk to them and realize, they're just like me. They love simming. They love kind of just that interaction, that engagement. It makes you feel a lot closer to the community. And actually, when you get home, you kind of build a lot more relationships. And that's something I've definitely done since kind of going to these sort of events is, you build friendships and you kind of solidify them and stuff. And it really is about actually going and doing it face to face, because as much fun as what FatSim and other online communities is, it's not until you kind of have a drink or two and just engage in that, that one connection that you have, and it is very different, like you said, to kind of do it in person. So that is definitely the biggest reason, if any, to kind of attend these events. But of course, you've got all these fantastic developers and stuff going as well. So I think it's going to be a really exciting, really busy show. I don't even know how it's going to fit into just a single weekend. It should be like a month event with the amount of content that seems to be going on. But I really do encourage as many of you guys as possible to go and attend, because for these guys especially, if the more people that go, the more success they have, the bigger and better shows will be in the future, and the more kind of development support as well. And just one final point from me, and I think we've talked about this before, but if there is like a certain developer or publisher you really want to see who isn't on the current exhibitor list, then reach out to that developer and pester them to actually attend this event, because it's, I think, the biggest selling point, the biggest vocal is the community themselves. So if the more they kind of want a developer to be there, the more likely they're going to be there, so they can actually talk to them in person and actually just get to know them a little bit better.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I totally agree. We've been talking, of course, to more than 400 different simulation developers, speakers, community partners, and we often will send 2 or 3 emails, and after maybe the 3rd or 4th email, the person will come back and say, I was debating this event, I was on the fence, but actually I'm getting really a lot of interest in my forum or in my email or in my support tickets. I've heard from a number of people, I think I'll make the trip. It really is, these developers are like anyone else, right? They're there to serve the flight simulation community. So if they're getting the feedback from the community saying, this is an event that we really want to see you at, I'd love to meet you, I'd love to say thank you for the great products, then they're more likely to make that trip. So that's really important feedback and an action that anyone can take, is to reach out to your favorite developers, especially people that you may not see on the website, and say, hey, you're going to Expo? Come on out in Vegas. I'd love to meet you. That does go a long way.
Perfect. So I think that kind of wraps everything up from me and from you guys. So once again, make sure you go to FlightSimExpo.com to check out all the event details. June 9th and 10th are those dates you need to remember. You can buy tickets now via the website, and don't forget our competition as well. Evan, Phil, thank you very much. Firstly, for taking that risk, taking that gamble to put on FlightSimExpo 2018. But also as well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me as well, and hopefully we've just given the community a little bit more kind of information and maybe a little bit more motivation to attend the event this year.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Likewise, looking forward to seeing you soon.
Excellent. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for watching and take care. Bye-bye.